Hello, I'm McKay, and today we're going to be taking a look at Final Exit, the practicalities of self-deliverance and assisted suicide for the dying by Humphry. This one was first published in 1991. I think it was self-published as well originally. But before I get to that, I just want to say that my prayers are out to my friend right now who is very anxious about the coronavirus. And yeah, I just want to say, I love you, man. My heart is with you. But anyway, yeah, I'm not going to go on about the corona thing because, I'm not exactly an expert on fucking viral outbreaks or phenomenons, and nobody is, so why don't you all shut the fuck up? I hope everyone's alright out there, and this is a kind of weird book to be reviewing during this kind of time, but, that's the way it goes. If I got through it a bit quicker, I probably could have got it out before this whole corona thing started happening, but there you go. What can you do? This might actually become useful for some people out there in the upcoming weeks, who knows? So, more about that later though. It was originally requested by a patron of mine, and I have to say I was very pleased that she made me aware of it, mainly because I was quite stunned that I'd never heard of it before. If it isn't obvious enough, this book is about how to kill yourself. But I will also try to remain as sensitive as Humphry is regarding the subject. It's not easy for someone like me. Ironically, my name Gareth actually means gentle in Welsh, which I am anything but these days. But there we go. When I first took a look at it, I was thinking, why the fuck is the font so big? I was kind of getting a bit snobbish about the whole format of the book. I thought, it's a bit weird. And then I was made to feel like an arsehole by Mr. Humphry, because he states at the beginning, if I can fucking find it, it's kind of he says it somewhere. Where the fuck does he say it? Oh, here we go. Author's notes. This is right at the beginning before you get into the introduction. He says, as many of the readers of this book will be people with poor sight, it has been set in large type to assist them. Also, this book assumes the reader's ethical acceptance of the right to choose to die when terminally ill, and thus the arguments for and against are not addressed. The history and controversy of this issue can be found in the Right to Die, Understanding Euthanasia, Dying with Dignity, and Freedom to Die. And that maybe just warmed to him straight away, to be honest. The fact that he's, so conscious about, or conscientious, should I say, about the people who will mostly be interested in picking this up. There's a funny little quib he makes about when this was going around a certain nursing home, I believe in America somewhere, where apparently it was being handed around like the latest best-selling thriller, which I found pretty hilarious and almost quite heartwarming in senses. And yeah, there's a little bit of humour in it, but sometimes it's a bit inadvertent. Anyway, yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy to read, I have to admit. I struggled. At the beginning of it, for some reason, every time I was reading it, I kept imagining my mother watching my father, or my father's throat constricting as he basically suffocated to death, and the thought of her watching that. So, yeah, didn't make it too easy to. It wasn't exactly a page turner for me. That, and I was also thinking about other stories I've heard that kind of affected me over the years. One of them in particular was a 12-year-old boy that I heard of who was the one sibling out of 3 to discover that his mother had committed suicide. She was reportedly an alcoholic and drunk herself with a load of pills inside the bath and drowned to death. And yeah, let me just say, yeah, I guess this kind of goes out to you as well. I can't imagine how much that would affect you. But yeah, that's the kind of nice things I was thinking about whilst reading this. So, not sure if that's going to sell it to you or not. But at the same time, I will say I do think this book is of supreme importance. And it's something I think everybody should have and consider when they're, especially as they're getting older, because there's a lot of things in it that you wouldn't have thought of if you do plan on going down the kind of assisted suicide route. There's quite a bit of information in here that will not only help you and guide you, but also kind of reassure you about what you're doing, because quite a lot of people, as the book states, will just do it and there's nothing about a will going on. Apparently about 80% of people don't have any will whatsoever. And this one actually talks about having a right to die kind of will. So that's something that you kind of sign when you do actually commit suicide. And then the authorities, should they get a bit suspicious about the way you died or the manner of which you did it, they cannot really touch you. And if you have a copy of this, your beliefs will be kind of confirmed by it as well. So it's one of those things where you get a lot of technical, contractual information that will help you basically say fuck you to the law regarding it, because many places still look down upon euthanasia. There's only 3 countries in Europe that actually help you with that, which includes Holland, Belgium, and Switzerland. But even in those countries, it's pretty damn difficult, especially if you're a foreigner. I think the only place you can do it, if you are foreign, is in Switzerland. And even then, it's a very arduous process, and you have to go through a lot of technical bullshit and therapy and blah, blah, blah until you can get to the final conclusion. And a lot of the time, I imagine if you're in that kind of state already, and you just want to end it all, it's very difficult to do so. There are parts in it where it talks about if you become paraplegic, if you've got one of these wills, you can actually have someone as your kind of, forgetting the word now, but they use it with a surrogate kind of person who will speak on your behalf and make the decision to end your life for you, basically. So if you've nominated them to be that person, then they can go ahead and allow what you want to happen or wanted to happen whilst you were still mentally able to actually indicate what you want. And I found that to be kind of fascinating, actually. There's stuff in here that's just like, because it's relentlessly talking about, euthanasia and committing suicide and assisted suicide and physician-assisted suicide and all of these different things. It's a very in-depth look into it. And Derek Humphry actually got into the whole euthanasia game when he assisted his wife, who was dying of cancer, and she had metastasized, I think, breasts, but I'm not sure, breast cancer. And they came to an agreement together, and he basically helped her commit suicide. And I think after that, he was kind of inspired to try and help others do it. And he has since actually helped 3 people die, which I do think is very commendable. And the bravery it must have taken to actually put this out there, especially self-publish it and then see it kind of explode. And he's basically become part of, this is where some of the irony, I think, comes in when there's a society out there called the Hemlock Society, right? And this is basically a group that supports euthanasia and tries to fight for it to become legalized and all that kind of stuff. Hemlock is a plant, a poisonous plant, that Socrates was ordered to consume in order to kill him. So I don't know whether there's an ironic kind of statement there, perhaps, because although he was ordered to eat it because he was teaching the youth of the times laws against or ideas that went against the state, because he actually just chose to eat it, is that technically a suicide? I don't know. But yeah, calling something the Hemlock Society after that, I recently learnt of that information as well, so I was a bit like, is that a nod to some kind of awful, because it's not a nice death having that. It will, you'll be eating, you'll eat it and then you'll be in thriving agony for about 24 to 48 hours, I believe. So yeah, not the nicest way to go. What Humphry also goes on to do is actually debunk a lot of myths out there. And he states that because of Hollywood and the kind of glamorization of death and of how easy it appears to come to us, we've become completely brainwashed. And he kicks off the book with a kind of harrowing reality check. So just after a few of the first sentences... Oh, that's the beginning. So that's the most difficult decision. So the introduction. Oh, God. I should have marked these notes. I apologise for the wait. It says, I once had the misfortune to see a man shot in the head at point-blank range on a Los Angeles street. Even though he was doomed from the instant the bullet entered his head, he could still cry out, "What have you done?" before collapsing into the storm gutter, where his death throes, lasting several minutes, were pitiful to behold. This is not something you are allowed to see on screen. So you can get shot in the head and still be alive for a number of minutes in the most excruciating of pain, I would imagine. Still conscious enough to be able to talk, yet you're basically going to have to face the fact that you're bleeding to death very, very quickly. Of course, if you use something like a shotgun, that would probably take your head clean off. But it's not really the point, is it? Even if you use something that you think is going to be instantaneous, it kind of doesn't exist. And the kind of thoughts that provoked in me was like, death seems a lot similar to giving birth in some ways. It can be relatively painless for some of us and excruciatingly so for others. So again, another reason why I think people should have this book almost just as a just in case scenario. So it's not like you definitely are going to use it at some point, but having it there on your shelf, I think will add some kind of reassurance as you get older, especially. So I would recommend it for that reason, and probably that reason alone in some regards. As a writer, he's very good, I would say. He's clear, to the point, no nonsense kind of style, with occasional bits of humour in it, which, although could be inadvertent, which I suspected quite a lot of the time, it still added something to it. There was just, this, for instance, is completely inadvertent, because Humphry kind of recommends taking a lot of pills, and there's a long list of what type of pills, and then putting a plastic bag over your head and doing the old helium trick, because that will just calm you. And if you've taken the right amount of drugs beforehand, you'll pass out in roughly 5 to 10, maybe 15 minutes. And then as long as that's kind of left, you'll be on your way to your final exit pretty quickly. But yeah, he's got illustrations to it as well, which nice little handy how to kill yourself via the plastic bag method. He hasn't got any others, just that one. It's unique. You can tell us that's his favourite. But yeah, it's a fascinating read, and it's a difficult one. I'm going to be honest about it. I was pissing through it at the beginning, despite the kind of memories that I was kind of flashing up in my head, or at least the coincidental kind of memories that death has for all of us. And that definitely interrupted my enjoyment of it at times. Even to say enjoyment of this kind of thing isn't exactly the right word. Appreciation maybe is the better word. And I think it's something that people should be more aware of. I, for one, had never heard of it until I was made aware of it. And I hope in some small way I will reach out to someone else out there who has either been in the same situation with a loved one or close friend, or is actually going to face their own, mortality and try and get their things in order before that big final day comes along. This is a fucking hard subject to keep banging on about, for fuck's sake. So I'm probably going to cut it short. Just trying to think if there's anything else, because I know there's always something I didn't mention where I rue the day. But oh yeah, there's a few things. I like this one. So you can have if your suicide fails and someone turns up, right? Police, whatever. If you've got a kind of "do not resuscitate" t-shirt, that'll help. Because then they might actually follow orders. And if you've got this kind of will lying there, or at least a suicide note saying, if you fucking wake me up or resuscitate me, I will sue you to fuck. So leave me the hell alone. That helps. Some people go as far as to tattoo it as well, which I think is a bit extreme, but kind of funny. Do not resuscitate. Tattoo. I'd love to go to a tattoo artist and request that and see if they actually know what I'm talking about as well. And there was another that was just on my mind that I'm fucking forgetting, which is annoying. No, it's gone. Fuck's sake. I suppose it's more just all the information, because he kind of gives you, he'll go through all the legal ways of doing it. Well, technically legal. There's a part where he talks about you can use barbiturates, and that's a type of very strong type of sleeping pill. But you can't get it from the doctor straight away. What you have to do is go there once and say you can't sleep. Then they'll give you some kind of mild, typical drug to get you to sleep. Then you go back a week or two later saying, "Doc, these are shit, man. I can't, they're doing nothing." They give you another prescription. You go back again in another couple of weeks, and then you'll get the barbiturates. That's when you get the good stuff, if you know what I'm saying. And yeah, so basically that's how you can dupe your doctor into giving you the right drugs. Humphry will also tell you how to store them properly. So, they will last at least 5 years. So there's just tons and tons of really fascinating, yet kind of disturbing, I suppose, depending on how you look at it or depending on your mindset. Like, I probably read this in the wrong mindset. I don't know if you've been aware, but my life is all over the fucking place at the moment. My stress levels are pretty out of whack. That doesn't show any sign of improving anytime soon, which is great. But at the same time, I do think because that's the mindset I was kind of going into it as or with, then that did especially affect my experience of reading it. Because from a very clinical and rational point of view, it's one of the most important books I've probably ever read in some regards, especially in terms of existential kind of beliefs that I hold and of the inevitable demise of us all. It's really up there. I would mark it out and definitely recommend it for that reason. But from an emotional standpoint, it's fucking quite hard at times, and I do think it will remind you of stuff that you don't necessarily want reminding of right now. So I would go into it with a good kind of mental state, as much as you possibly can, essentially. And it will give you some good ideas as well of how you want to go out. One I hadn't thought of before, because I've always been quite obsessed with the idea of drowning. I've always thought I'd Virginia Woolf it my way out of this existence. And I don't know why, to be honest. I like the symbolism of it because of the whole womb symbolism. And you're kind of going back to that kind of Kurt Cobain-esque in a way. Well, lyrically anyway. He didn't do that in real life, did he? But there was also one where he talks about if you can go to a mountain, and as soon as you're kind of a certain altitude, if you just sit and wait, eventually you'll get, hypothermia, I believe. And, you'll go into a coma within 2 or 3 hours. I thought that would be at least it would look beautiful. And I don't have a problem so much with the cold that much. I quite like it in some ways. And I just think it would be quite peaceful, and at least you'd be at one with nature right at the end. But yeah, there's plenty of methods in there. He even lists a load of drugs that you can use to kind of take yourself out with the plastic bag method with helium. So yeah, you've got a list, and he even recommends, which ones you should do best combined with a plastic bag. He says for chloral, diazepam, some drugs I never heard of, flurazepam. So yeah, he'll give you a little tip. Morphine is another good one. yeah, overall, it's a book where, you're basically being slapped with your mortality. And I think most people can't really handle that, and possibly can only handle it when they are actually facing the end. It's recommended for the terminally ill. I will like to underline, this isn't a book for severely depressed people looking for a way out, although technically it kind of is, let's be honest. I'm sure that's like half of its audience has probably been that. But I like to think that his message in that would actually convince you that all you need to do is wait, and you can take charge of it when the time comes, try and at least experience something. That's the one thing about being really deeply depressed, is that you're still feeling. So regardless of how much you feel numb or completely dead inside, it's a luxury of feeling. Not a luxury perhaps, but there is a point I'm trying to make here, and it's coming out as gobbledygook as always. But yeah, I think I'm just going to leave it on this very profound ending here. And yeah, that's it. I'm going to be countering this with a video of either the top 20 or the top 10 suicides of all time. And of course, this is just my opinion on what the best ones are. But yeah, it's going to be a fun, little kind of a bit tongue-in-cheek, or maybe very tongue-in-cheek. And it will be a good laugh. I'm going to be picking mostly artists, but there'll be a few different ones thrown in there. And it's going to be exclusive to my patrons over at patreon.com. So if you're not signed up to that, that's what's coming up soon. And I think it's going to be a riot. So yeah, keep that in mind. You can be on the lowest tier for all I care. I don't mind. But I will also offer it to people if they want to make donations or whatever. And speaking of that, I actually do have a short story out now called Chameleon. It's a very cold piece. One patron said that it made her want to fill her genitals with cement, which I thought was kind of a compliment, to be honest. Maybe I'm weird, but yeah, that's the feedback so far. And that also is quite hypnotically written, so you kind of get sucked in and you kind of experience it more than you just read it, which I think that's probably the biggest compliment I could hope for, really. That's what I was kind of aiming to do whilst writing it. So yeah, go and check that out. If you want to buy it directly from me as well, just send me a donation via PayPal. Pay me whatever you want for it. I don't care. At least fucking Musk won't get any pennies for himself. And yeah, if you do give me a little donation, then I'll ping it along. And yeah, let me know what you think of it. If you're broke, send me an email, contact@gcmackay.com, and unless I think you're an arsehole, I'll send it. Thank you very much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, get yourself a copy of this, but don't necessarily feel obliged to read it straight away. Just know that it's there for when you need it. And I want to say thank you to Derek Humphry for writing it. Must have taken a lot of balls, and must have been something that you felt really passionate about to actually put together and risk how people would perceive you, because he must have made a lot of enemies writing this. And yeah, for me, that's bravery of the highest honour. And I hope you, I don't know whether you're still alive or not, but I hope you're enjoying the rest of it. And yeah, thank you. Cheers very much, guys. I'll see you next week.